The day Earth's sky turned purple was the day everything changed. It wasn't a natural phenomenon, it was the arrival of the Galactic Empire's massive fleet, their energy shields interacting with Earth's atmosphere to create the strange color. Captain James Miller stood on the roof of the United Earth Defense Headquarters in Geneva, watching the alien ships fill the sky like metallic clouds. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the lead vessel," reported Lieutenant Tom Baker, his voice steady despite the unprecedented situation. The world's military forces had trained for alien contact scenarios, but nothing could have truly prepared them for this moment. The Empire's ships were beyond anything humans had imagined, each one was the size of a small city, with strange geometric patterns that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Their technology was so advanced it might as well have been magic to human eyes. Admiral Robert Wilson, the head of Earth's combined military forces, ordered the transmission to be played throughout all command centers. The alien message was clear and terrifying in its simplicity: your species has been identified as a potential threat to galactic stability. Submit to Imperial authority within 24 hours, or face elimination. Humanity's response was equally simple: they would not bow down. Within hours, every nation on Earth united under a single banner for the first time in history. Old enemies became allies, and decades-old conflicts were forgotten in the face of extinction. The United Earth Defense Force was born. Captain Miller was assigned to lead Earth's first space combat unit, hastily equipped with reverse-engineered alien technology from previous crash sites. His team had 12 ships, experimental vessels that were humanity's best hope against the Empire's vast armada. "This is insane," said Lieutenant Baker as they prepared their ship, the Thunder Child, for launch. "We're going up against an empire that spans galaxies with technology we barely understand." Miller checked his combat systems one last time. "Sometimes the biggest victories come from the craziest odds, Tom. Besides, what choice do we have?" The first battle began exactly 24 hours after the Empire's ultimatum. Their ships descended through the atmosphere like falling stars, targeting major cities across the globe. Earth's conventional weapons, missiles, fighter jets, tanks, might as well have been throwing rocks at a battleship. But humanity had one advantage the Empire didn't expect: desperation. Miller's squadron launched from hidden bases across the planet, using experimental gravity drives that the aliens didn't think Earth possessed. The Thunder Child led the charge, its hybrid human-alien weapon systems online. "All ships, form up on me," Miller commanded. "Remember the plan: we hit their command ship hard and fast. If we can take out their leadership, we might have a chance to disrupt their entire fleet." The squad accelerated toward the Empire's massive command vessel, dodging energy beams that could vaporize cities. Earth's experimental shields held, barely. They were about to attempt something that had never been done before: a synchronized attack using weapons cobbled together from salvaged alien tech and human ingenuity. As they approached their target, Miller couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. Humanity might be outgunned and outnumbered, but they weren't going down without a fight. The Empire was about to learn that underestimating humans was a dangerous mistake. But then something unexpected happened. The Empire's command ship began to glow with an energy signature that none of Earth's sensors could identify. Miller had just enough time to shout a warning before the alien vessel released a pulse of energy unlike anything humanity had ever seen. The Thunder Child systems went dark. One by one, every human ship in the squadron lost power. They had severely underestimated the Empire's technological superiority. As their vessels drifted helplessly in space, Miller realized with horror that this was just the beginning of what would become humanity's greatest challenge for survival. The first battle was over before it truly began. But for humanity, this defeat would spark a resistance that would shake the foundations of the galaxy itself. 3 months after the failed space battle, Earth was barely recognizable. The Empire's occupation had transformed bustling cities into heavily patrolled zones, with massive alien structures looming over the ruins of human civilization. But beneath the surface, humanity refused to die. Captain Miller sat in an underground bunker, 20 stories below what used to be New York City. The room was filled with salvaged equipment and tired faces. The remnants of Earth's military leadership had gathered to discuss their next move. "The Empire thinks they've won," Admiral Wilson said, his face illuminated by the dim emergency lighting. "They've destroyed our major military installations, taken control of our cities, but they don't understand human nature. We don't give up." The Resistance had discovered something crucial during these months of hiding. The Empire's technology, while incredibly advanced, had a weakness: it relied heavily on a specific type of energy field that human technology could interfere with, if used correctly. "Show them what we found," Wilson ordered, and Dr. Anna White stepped forward. She was one of Earth's leading physicists, and she'd been studying the wreckage of fallen Imperial ships. "Their shield technology operates on a quantum frequency we can disrupt," she explained, pointing to diagrams on a cracked tablet screen. "It's like finding a key frequency that causes a wine glass to shatter. We can't match their power, but we can make their technology work against them." Miller studied the plans carefully. "So we're going for death by 1,000 cuts instead of a knockout punch?" "Exactly," Dr. White nodded. "Small teams, hit-and-run tactics. We use their own energy signatures against them. It won't win the war immediately, but it will show them that occupying Earth is going to cost them dearly." The Resistance had already begun manufacturing simple devices that could disrupt Imperial technology. They called them static bombs, tiny EMP-like weapons that could temporarily disable alien systems. The Empire's response to these attacks had been brutal, but it proved one thing: they weren't invincible. Lieutenant Baker, who had survived the space battle with Miller, spoke up. "We've got cells organized in every major city. People are ready to fight back. They can't watch every shadow, every corner." The plan they developed was audacious. Instead of trying to match the Empire's military might, they would wage a war of attrition. Small teams would strike at Imperial patrols, gather intelligence, and most importantly, steal their technology. Miller led the first major operation himself. His team of 20 Resistance fighters infiltrated an Imperial processing center in the ruins of London. They moved through underground tunnels that predated the Roman occupation of Britain, paths the aliens didn't even know existed. "Remember," Miller whispered to his team, "we're not here to fight. We're here to steal their transport technology. Get in, plant the static bombs as distractions, and get out with the target." The mission started perfectly. The static bombs created chaos in the Imperial facility, their energy-disrupting pulses causing alien systems to crash. In the confusion, Miller's team reached the storage area where the Empire kept their gravity drives. But something went wrong. As they were extracting the technology, an Imperial commander appeared, one of the few aliens they'd seen in person. It was tall, with crystalline features that seemed to shift and change, wearing armor that moved like liquid metal. The alien spoke, its words translated by stolen technology: "You humans are persistent, I'll grant you that. But persistence without power is merely prolonged failure." Miller raised his weapon, but the alien commander moved with impossible speed. 3 Resistance fighters were down before anyone could react. The rest of the team opened fire, their modified weapons having little effect on the commander's advanced armor. "Fall back!" Miller shouted, grabbing the stolen gravity drive. They couldn't let this mission fail. The Resistance needed this technology to progress their plans. The team retreated through the tunnels, the alien commander in pursuit. They triggered their remaining static bombs, causing sections of the tunnel to collapse. The commander was fast, but it didn't know these ancient passages like they did. They emerged 2 miles away, in the basement of a bombed-out church. They had lost 5 good people, but they had succeeded in their primary mission. The gravity drive would be crucial for the Resistance's next phase. Back in the bunker, as Dr. White began studying the stolen technology, Miller couldn't shake what the alien commander had said. Were they just prolonging their failure? No, he decided. They were learning, adapting, and most importantly, they were showing the Empire something they didn't expect: humanity's unconquerable spirit. Admiral Wilson gathered the resistance leaders. Today's mission was costly, but it proved something important. The Empire can be hurt. They can be surprised. And most importantly, they can be beaten, not with brute force, but with human ingenuity and determination. As Miller looked around the room at the faces of the resistance fighters, people from every nation, every background, united in their fight for survival, he knew that this was just the beginning. The Empire had won the first battle, but they had no idea what humanity was capable of when pushed to the edge. The war wasn't over. It was evolving. 6 months into the occupation, Dr. White made a breakthrough that would change everything. She had been studying the stolen gravity drive when she discovered something extraordinary. The Empire's technology wasn't just advanced, it was interconnected in ways they hadn't imagined. "Look at this," she said, showing Miller and Admiral Wilson the holographic display they'd managed to salvage. Their entire network operates on quantum entanglement. Every piece of their technology is connected to their central command structure. Miller leaned forward, watching the complex patterns dance in the air. "What does this mean for us?" "It means," Dr. White smiled for the first time in months, "that we might have found their greatest weakness. Their strength, their perfect unity, could be their downfall." The resistance had already spread across the globe, with cells operating in every major city. They had perfected their hit-and-run tactics, using the static bombs to disrupt Imperial operations. But this discovery offered something bigger, a chance to strike at the heart of the Empire's control system. Admiral Wilson called an emergency meeting of all resistance leaders they could safely contact. Representatives from cells around the world gathered in the underground bunker, their faces showing the strain of months of guerrilla warfare. The Empire's ships, their weapons, their communication systems, they're all quantum locked to their command structure, Dr. White explained to the assembled leaders. If we can create a large enough disruption in their quantum network, we might be able to temporarily disable their entire system on Earth. But there was a catch. To create a disruption of that magnitude, they would need to get close to one of the Empire's main control towers, massive structures they had built in major cities around the world. These towers were the most heavily guarded Imperial installations on Earth. Miller studied the plans carefully. "We'll need a bigger team than before. Multiple teams, actually. This isn't something we can do with just 20 people." The plan they developed was the most ambitious yet. Teams would strike simultaneously at 3 control towers, one in New York, one in Beijing, and one in London. They would use everything they had learned about Imperial technology, every weapon and trick they had developed. Miller would lead the New York team himself. They spent weeks preparing, studying Imperial patrol patterns, testing new versions of the static bombs that Dr. White had enhanced with their growing understanding of alien tech. The night before the operation, Miller found Lieutenant Baker checking their equipment one last time. "Do you think we can pull this off?" Baker asked. "We have to," Miller replied. "We're not just fighting for survival anymore. We're fighting to show them that humanity won't be conquered." The operation began at dawn. 300 resistance fighters moved through the underground networks of 3 cities. In New York, Miller's team emerged from the subway tunnels, using salvaged Imperial cloaking technology to approach the tower. They made it halfway before everything went wrong. Alarms blared across the city. Imperial ships appeared in the sky, more than they had seen since the initial invasion. The alien commander Miller had encountered in London stepped out of the tower, flanked by dozens of Imperial troops. "Did you think we wouldn't notice your preparations?" the commander's translated voice boomed across the plaza. "We have been watching, learning. You humans are predictable in your desperation. But Miller smiled. The commander had revealed something crucial. The Empire had been watching them, yes, but they still didn't understand humanity's greatest strength, adaptability. Now! Miller shouted into his radio. Across the city, hundreds of civilians emerged from hiding places. The resistance had grown far larger than the Empire realized. Regular people, teachers, construction workers, office clerks, all armed with static bombs and makeshift weapons. The Imperial forces found themselves surrounded. The commander's crystalline features shifted in what might have been surprise. You would throw away more lives in a futile gesture? No, Miller replied. We're showing you what humanity really is. All at once, thousands of static bombs detonated. But these weren't like the earlier versions. Dr. White had modified them based on their understanding of the quantum network. The effect was devastating. Imperial weapons failed, their armor systems crashed, and their communications went dark. The resistance fighters charged. The battle was chaos, humans with jury-rigged weapons against Imperial troops stripped of their technological advantages. It wasn't pretty, but it was effective. Miller fought his way toward the tower, leading a team through the gaps in the Imperial defense. They reached the control center, where Dr. White's devices could be planted to disrupt the quantum network. But as they prepared to plant the devices, the alien commander appeared again. Its armor was damaged, but it moved with the same impossible speed. You cannot win, it said. The Empire spans galaxies. This victory, if you achieve it, will only bring greater retribution. Miller faced the commander. Maybe. But it will show everyone in those galaxies something important. Earth is not a prize to be taken. We are not subjects to be ruled. We are humanity, and we will never stop fighting. The battle raged on, its outcome still uncertain. But one thing was clear, the Empire had underestimated humanity for the last time. Whether they won or lost this day, the galaxy would remember that Earth did not surrender quietly. In New York, Beijing, and London, humanity fought for its future. The war wasn't over, but it had changed. The Empire was about to learn that technology wasn't everything. Sometimes the strongest weapon was the indomitable spirit of a species fighting for its survival. The coordinated attacks on the Imperial control towers had succeeded beyond their wildest expectations, but victory came at a terrible cost. As the dust settled over New York, Miller surveyed the battlefield from the top of the damaged tower. The city below was a maze of destruction and burning Imperial vessels. Status report, he called over the Resistance communications network, which was functioning again now that the Imperial quantum interference was temporarily disabled. Lieutenant Baker's voice came through, strained but alive. New York is secure, sir. We've captured the tower and most of the Imperial ground forces have either surrendered or retreated. But our casualties. He paused, they're heavy. Almost 40% of our fighters. Similar reports came in from Beijing and London. The Resistance had won their first major victory against the Empire, but the cost was staggering. Thousands of brave fighters had given their lives to secure this chance. Dr. White worked frantically in the captured tower, studying the Imperial systems they now had access to. Captain, you need to see this, she called to Miller, her face pale with worry. The holographic displays showed massive Imperial fleets mobilizing across the galaxy. Their attack had gotten the Empire's attention, but not in the way they had hoped. Instead of recognizing humanity's strength, the Empire had designated Earth as a priority threat that needed to be eliminated completely. How long do we have? Miller asked. Based on their quantum communications, the reinforcement fleet will arrive in less than 72 hours, Dr. White replied. And it's massive. 10 times the size of the original invasion force. Admiral Wilson, who had survived the battle in London, connected via video link. Then we have 72 hours to make use of what we've gained. Dr. White, what have we learned from the captured towers? Dr. White's fingers flew over the alien controls. The towers aren't just control centers. They're part of a larger network that extends throughout the galaxy. The Empire uses them to maintain their quantum-locked technology, but they're also... She paused, double-checking her findings. They're also capable of generating wormholes. The implications were staggering. If they could figure out how to use this technology, they might have a way to take the fight to the Empire itself. But with such a massive fleet approaching, they were running out of time. The alien commander, who had been captured during the battle, watched them from its containment cell. Its crystalline features shifted in what might have been amusement. "You still don't understand," it said. "Your victory here has only assured your planet's destruction. The Empire will not allow this level of defiance to go unpunished." Miller approached the cell. "Why? Why is the Empire so determined to crush us? We weren't a threat to you before you arrived." "Because," the commander replied, "you are different. Most species we encounter either submit immediately or fight conventionally and lose. But humans, you adapt. You take our technology and transform it. You unite and fight in ways we didn't predict. You represent chaos in our ordered galaxy." As if to emphasize the commander's words, alarms began blaring throughout the tower. Dr. White rushed to the control systems. Multiple quantum fluctuations detected. "They're using their remaining towers on other continents to try to re-establish control." The resistance had only captured 3 towers, but there were dozens more across the globe. The Empire was adapting too, learning from their defeat. The quantum network began to pulse with new energy signatures they hadn't seen before. "They're activating some kind of failsafe," Dr. White warned. "The quantum network is reconfiguring itself. We're going to lose control of the towers." Miller made a quick decision. "Download everything you can from their systems. Admiral, we need to evacuate these towers immediately. Everyone out." They barely made it out before the towers began to emit a high-pitched whine. Energy coursed through the structures, and the quantum network pulsed with increasing intensity. The captured Imperial technology they were using started to malfunction. From their evacuation point several blocks away, they watched as the towers began to glow with an otherworldly light. The alien commander, who they had brought with them, spoke again. "The Empire does not tolerate losing its technology to lesser species. Everything within the towers will be reduced to its base atomic structure." The towers exploded in a cascade of quantum energy, taking with them much of the technology and information the Resistance had captured. But Dr. White held up a small device triumphantly. "I got what we needed. Their primary command protocols, transit coordinates, everything. We can still use this." Miller looked at the destruction, then at the sky where they knew an enormous Imperial fleet was heading toward Earth. They had won this battle, but the Empire's response would be overwhelming. They had 72 hours to come up with a plan that would save humanity. "Admiral," Miller said, "I have an idea. It's crazy, and it will probably get us all killed, but it's better than waiting here to be annihilated." Admiral Wilson's face on the video screen showed grim determination. "At this point, Captain, crazy ideas are all we have left. What are you thinking?" Miller looked at Dr. White's device, then at the alien commander. "They want to punish us for being unpredictable? Let's show them just how unpredictable humans can be. Dr. White, how quickly can you figure out how to create a wormhole?" The fate of humanity would depend on their most audacious plan yet, taking the fight directly to the heart of the Galactic Empire itself. They had 72 hours to prepare, and failure meant the end of everything they had ever known. With less than 10 hours remaining before the Imperial reinforcement fleet arrived, humanity prepared for its most desperate mission yet. The Resistance had converted an underground particle accelerator facility into their final command center, where Dr. White worked frantically to implement their last hope for survival. "The wormhole technology is incredibly complex," she explained to the gathered leadership. We can create one stable portal, but we'll only have enough power to keep it open for 30 minutes at most. Miller studied the holographic display showing their target, the Empire's central command hub, a massive space station at the heart of Imperial territory. The captured commander had confirmed its location, though it seemed to take pleasure in telling them how heavily defended it was. "This is madness," Lieutenant Baker said, looking at the plans. "Even if we get through the wormhole, we'll be going up against the entire Empire with just a handful of ships." "Which is exactly why it might work," Miller replied. "They're expecting a defensive last stand here on Earth. They're not expecting us to strike at their heart." The Resistance had spent the last 72 hours preparing every operational ship they had, retrofitting them with the quantum technology they'd managed to salvage. They had 6 vessels in total, crewed by volunteers who knew this was likely a one-way mission. Admiral Wilson addressed the gathered crews. "What we do today will be remembered as long as humanity survives. Either as our final defiant act, or as the day we prove that humanity cannot be conquered." Dr. White had made another crucial discovery in the Imperial database: the quantum network that connected their technology could be overloaded. If they could trigger a cascade failure at the central hub, it would disable Imperial technology across the galaxy, at least temporarily. The plan was simple, even if the execution would be nearly impossible. While Earth's remaining forces prepared for a defensive action against the incoming fleet, Miller would lead the strike team through the wormhole. They would use the chaos of the space battle as cover to infiltrate the command hub and trigger the quantum overload. As the hours counted down, Miller visited the alien commander one last time. "Why are you telling us so much about your Empire's defenses?" The commander's crystalline features shifted. "Because even with this knowledge, your mission is impossible. And there is a certain beauty in watching a species fight to its absolute limit before the end." The moment arrived. The Imperial fleet emerged from hyperspace, thousands of ships darkening Earth's skies. But the Resistance was ready. As the enemy fleet moved into position, Dr. White activated the wormhole device. A massive portal opened in Earth's orbit, its swirling energy creating a bridge across the galaxy. Miller's team launched immediately, their 6 ships accelerating into the vortex while Earth's defensive forces engaged the Imperial fleet. The journey through the wormhole was unlike anything they had experienced. Reality twisted around them, and for a brief moment, they saw the true vastness of the Empire: millions of worlds, countless species, all under the control of a single, overwhelming power. They emerged in the heart of Imperial space. The command hub was enormous, a structure the size of Earth's moon, surrounded by defensive platforms and patrol ships. For a moment, they had the element of surprise. "All ships, execute attack pattern Delta," Miller commanded. They had modified their ships' quantum signatures to appear as Imperial vessels, but that deception wouldn't last long. They made it halfway to the command hub before the Empire realized what was happening. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Hundreds of ships converged on their position, their weapons capable of vaporizing planets. "We're not going to make it to the hub," Baker's voice crackled over the comm. His ship had taken heavy damage. "But we can give you a path, Captain." One by one, the other ships sacrificed themselves, drawing fire and attention away from Miller's vessel. Each explosion was a testament to human courage, a light going out in the infinite darkness of space. Miller's ship, the last survivor, crashed through the command hub's outer defenses. They had reached their target, but the cost was unimaginable. The surviving crew fought their way through the station's corridors, using their modified static bombs to clear a path to the central control room. They reached their objective with less than 5 minutes of wormhole time remaining. Dr. White's device was ready. It would trigger a feedback loop in the quantum network, disrupting Imperial technology across the galaxy. But as they prepared to activate it, Miller received a transmission from Earth. Admiral Wilson's voice was filled with static. "The fleet, too many of them. Our defenses are failing. They're starting to glass the planet." The device was armed. They could trigger the cascade, disable the Empire's technology, give Earth a fighting chance. But as Miller watched the station's monitors, he saw the terrible truth: the Empire had anticipated even this desperate gambit. The quantum network had already been partitioned. The cascade would only affect a small portion of Imperial space, leaving their main fleet at Earth untouched. They had come so far, only to find that their final hope was just another dead end. Sometimes, Miller said, remembering the commander's words, persistence without power is merely prolonged failure. With their last moments, they triggered the device anyway. Around them, Imperial systems began to fail. They had achieved something unprecedented, they had hurt the Empire, proved it wasn't invincible. But the victory was hollow. The wormhole collapsed. Earth was alone against an overwhelming force, with no way to rescue the strike team and no defense against the Empire's retribution. Humanity had fought with everything they had, shown incredible courage and ingenuity, but in the end, the gap in technology and resources was too vast to overcome. The Empire would remember this war, not as an easy conquest, but as a lesson. Humanity had proven itself to be exactly what they feared: unpredictable, adaptable, and capable of achieving the impossible. But their victory, if it could be called that, was written in the ashes of a burning world. In the years that followed, stories would be told across the galaxy about the species that dared to strike at the Empire's heart. Humanity's defeat was total, but their resistance became legend, inspiring others to question Imperial rule. They had lost their world, but in doing so, they had planted the seeds of something that would shake the foundations of the Empire itself. The First War was over. But humanity's legacy was just beginning.